Is the Tamiya Madcap in many pieces. As you can see, there's a manual. It actually is a Madcap. So why did I get this? Well, I tried to use a two-wheel drive buggy in the classic class for the Vintage Off-Road Nationals. A couple of times I tried playing with the Traxxas Rad 2, and I fiddled around with the setup in a number of different ways. When I did get a chance to go to Vonats and try the car out during practice, it never quite behaved right. So I've been resorting to using four-wheel drive chassis for the classic class with pretty good success, I would say. But I'd really like to try a two-wheel drive chassis that's, plastic tub and something that I could really kind of tune and play with. I thought the Madcap would be a pretty good option because it shares a lot of parts with the Astute and the Super Astute, so there is some parts compatibility there. So that's why I bought it. Now I do know that the Madcap does have some issues, namely with the gearbox. This is, I believe, the same type of gearbox that you would see on the Tamiya Hilux. I think it's the same gearbox. And the big problem is that the ball diffs tend to slip, and they tend to fail. And so that's one problem I've potentially solved. And the other problem has to do with the plastic pieces that hold different parts of the gearbox on. So you have this piece that holds the bottom, that basically closes off the bottom of the gearbox that holds the diff in. And then there is also, I'm trying to find the part here as I just put it away, there's this piece here that holds on this, I guess it's an idler gear, this gear here. And if this starts to warp or crack, then that can cause this to get loose, and it can, I guess, result in some meshing issues. So what I did is I ordered a few aluminum parts, this motor plate, which also on the Madcap, it comes as a plastic plate, an aluminum part for this cap here, for the idler gear, an aluminum cap for the bottom of the gearbox. These are made by TTP models. I found these, I believe, on eBay. It's been a while since I got these, so I don't quite remember. So those should help with securing the gearbox and making it nice and stable. As for the diff, there is, I forget exactly the person or company that makes it, but there is somebody that makes these nice Delrin machined diff gears for the Tamiya Madcap and other like chassis like the Hilux. And these Delrin machine diff gears are not ball diffs, they're gear diffs. So you use the same planetary gear diff assembly that you would use in the VQS and the Avanti and the Egress. Actually, the Egress comes with ball diffs, but the Avanti style gear diffs, you would just put those internals into this diff, throw it together, and now you have a gear diff that's not going to slip. Now, the only potential problem there is it still has to mate to these outdrives that have splines in them. And these outdrives are unique to the Madcap / Hilux. So these are not common parts with the TA02, which also uses spline outdrives. They're not common parts with the Dynastorm, which uses spline outdrives. So as long as you have a couple of spares of these, you should be okay. So I have to go and find some spares. And of course, maybe somebody makes a 3D printed gearbox that allows you to cheat and put in associated B6 diffs in there or something, but I don't want to do that. So this is all set and assembled. It does spin fairly freely. Although I would say that when you tighten down the motor plate onto the gearbox, you don't want to tighten it all the way, because that does result in a bit of bind between this gear assembly and the diff gear. This is actually not one gear, it's two gears. If I show you in the manual here, and you put it's this guy right here, this mates to the diff gear, and this mates to the back side of the spur, which has another gear on it right here. Okay? So if you tighten down the motor plate too much, you get a little bit of binding, which is strange because this gearbox is just one piece. Okay, it's not a two-piece assembly. But somehow when you tighten down this motor plate too much, you do get a little bit of binding. So you got to back off just a little bit, maybe 1/8 of a turn, on each, especially this screw here, but I just did it on all 3 screws that mount the motor plate. So that's gearbox. As for the rest of it, I did also purchase from the same, actually either from this guy or I think Extra Speed makes these. That must be it. For the Tamiya Super Astute, these rear inner arm mounts. So these are better than the plastic units because these plastic units are ABS plastic and they'll probably break, and they are, as usual, impossible to find unless you get like a 3D printed replacement. These are cool because they use ball bearings or bushings, if you want, between the hinge pin and this mount. So it takes 3x7 bushings or bearings. I happen to have bearings, so I just use 3x7 bearings. Very free movement there. Hopefully no dirt gets inside there and gunks up the bearings, but if it does, it's pretty easy to just, unscrew this hinge pin and clean out the bearings, no big deal. So that's another modification that I am doing. Other things that I'm working on, well, the front bulkhead is going to be this guy right here. This is an aluminum part, so this should add a little bit of weight to the front, which should give me a bit more front grip hopefully, and also it should be a more reliable part because it's less likely to break compared to this crappy ABS Tamiya plastic here. Now, this front bulkhead is almost a perfect fit to the Madcap, except for the fact that it is made for the Super Astute. And with the Super Astute, compared to the Madcap, as you can see, there are these little cutouts here that I need to make in this aluminum in order to fit around these posts here, which are part of the original chassis molding. And these posts are important because I have to mount this top brace over those posts. So I can't just cut those posts out to make room for this. I have to basically trace out the location and get a Dremel and grind away on the inside on these to make this fit into the Madcap. Otherwise it should fit fine. And this, by the way, I have to do the same thing because this mounts underneath like this, I believe. Okay, so I also have to grind away at this part as well. But the thing is, the extent of grinding I have to do here is almost going to split each of these pieces here in two. It's going to come very, very close to the edge here. But this is really just a spacer, so I don't really care if I end up having to cut this, as long as I can get all these pieces on here to make the appropriate spacing to the kick-up plate / bulkhead and mount it onto the chassis. So this is another thing that I'm working on for the Madcap. The other piece is the rear bulkhead. So this here is the bulkhead for the Madcap, and as you can see, maybe if it can focus a little bit, one of these holes here, I think it's this one, is a little bit cracked. This is where the inner camber link mounts. So I would like to have a non-cracked version of this. Oh, this one right here, sorry. The only problem is this is a Madcap specific part. But there's something close to that which comes from the Super Astute. It's very close but not exactly the same. What that means is the way the shock tower mounts is also going to be a little bit different. So this is going to have a Super Astute, or I think an Astute rather, rear bulkhead, because I have one or two of these and you can still find them, I think. And then I have to put on a shock tower. Where is it? It's the front tower. We have, yeah, I'll get to the front tower. Oh, right here. Super Astute rear tower, which is kind of a blessing in disguise because it gives me a bit more tunability. I get 3 holes here for adjusting the shocks instead of 2 on the Madcap. And I think because of these holes here, I can take this whole tower and mount it up or down to change droop. So that's kind of neat. And it's carbon fiber, so that should be stronger. And then for the front, this is, I believe, an Astute front tower. These are from Berserk. These guys are in Australia, so this is going to mount onto this bulkhead here. So we have some nice carbon parts, aluminum parts, better diff, more, let's say, stronger or stable gearbox assembly, different bulkhead. And the next thing is going to be the shocks. So my plan for the shocks are these high cap dampers. I was originally going to use these aerated dampers because I had these lying around. But these are kind of modern, and I would like to stay with the vintage sort of theme here. And I happen to have these lying around, so I figured if I can make these fit with the appropriate links, I'd like to put these on there because it would also look much nicer than these aerated dampers, which are very good shocks. They're high performance shocks, but these should be more thematically appropriate. So this is what I have going on for the Madcap right now. A lot of different things to put together. I'm hoping to get this done within the next maybe 1 or 2 months, depending on how much time I have in the evenings, and we'll see how it goes. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching.